Yo, what up, street dogs? There, Kim. All right, like my friend Anthony Larson said, I've given up shirts. Shirts are for suckers. But anyways, now start wearing facial sunscreen. Okay, so a random turbo thought I had this morning is how to become a faster photographer. Now, the so-called virtuous say that, oh, we gotta slow down. Everything's too fast, right? We gotta slow living, slow cooking, be like the French, and eat dinner for like 5 hours, etc., etc. But truth be told, we are much more fascinated by speed. So, uh, we prefer fast cars, fast horses, uh, fast sprinters, and faster technologies, faster upload speeds, download speeds, 5Gs, 6Gs, 7Gs, whatever you have it, right? So, and also promptness is key. So for example, I discovered that when it comes to communication, right, like let's say emails or text messages, it's better to like instantly respond to somebody with a quote quote bad response than diddle daddle and send a really good response way later, or even worse, never. And so, a lot of different ways you can think about this, even as a commercial photographer, right? To get your images back to your clients, like ideally same day or like a few hours after, or just an hour after, is actually quite ideal. Imagine if you're a wedding photographer, like for example, a few years back, my friend got married, and I borrowed a Pentax 645Z, and I just shot the extra small JPEG, color positive color preset, I think. And during lunchtime, I was importing all the photos into my iPad and doing a quick selection of the images. And by the end of the wedding, imported the rest of the images, processed the second batch, and once I got home, got a Wi-Fi connection, I like instantly upload the photos to Dropbox and Google Drives, send him a link, and my friend was so surprised, like, whoa, I just literally got married and boom, you already have all the images. And so there's lots of different ways you could speed up your photography workflow. So for example, shooting extra small JPEG, I personally think RAW is for suckers. The benefit of in-camera JPEG is that you don't need to post-process your images. And even now shooting with the Ricoh GR3X, shooting extra high contrast black and white looks amazing. I also like the color process, color filter on the Ricoh GR digital cameras. Also on the Fujifilm cameras, the classic chrome preset looks really nice. And so shooting JPEG, especially extra small JPEG, you could shoot faster, less buffer, import your photos to your iPad, your laptop quicker, and also upload them way quicker. And the reason I like the notion of speed in photography is that you could just kind of keep going forward, right, and get on with your life. To look forward, not to look backwards, because I think when you're going too slow, there tends to be this tendency to look back in the past. And typically when people look back in the past and think retrospectively of, oh, back in the day when I used to do da 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 da, it actually is kind of depressing. Like, I actually think that to think of your past self as superior to your present self, to me, this is actually the worst thought, right? So, guys at the gym say, oh, I used to be able to bench 460 pounds, but now I could only bench 400 pounds. Or, you know, even powerlifters / strongmen like Eddie Hall, right? He deadlifted 500 kilos, which is what, 1,200 pounds American. And, now I don't think he trains like that anymore. I'm sure there's a tinge of like depression that's like, oh, I used to be able to deadlift 500 kilos and I can't do that anymore. And so this is where, looking forward, to look forward into the future is so much more optimistic, right? And so even with digital photography, right? No one ever thinks about this. Digital photography is like a quadrillion times faster than film photography. But I think the reason why a lot of people like film is maybe it's a virtue signaling thing where, oh, I shoot film and therefore I am much more sophisticated, cultured, unique and interesting than you. And also part of it was aesthetically, actually, film photos did look superior than digital photos for a long time. But now that we got the Ricoh GR3, GR3X, I actually think the digital photos are superior than the film photos. And also on the Ricoh GR3 and 3X, you could macro focus insanely close, which is, you know, phenomenal. Also, I think one big thing, you know, to increase your speed in photography is to not hesitate. So have you ever had an instance where you looked at something and you wanted to photograph it? Let's say your cat, or, you know, your morning coffee, or a kid, whatever, but you're like, oh, I've already shot that before, or I've shot something similar to it, and therefore you don't click the shutter, or you're like, oh, it might be a cliche photo. But something that Daido Moriyama said, which is funny, is to not shoot cliche photos is in itself a cliche, right? Is like, everything's already been photographed before, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't photograph it, right? It's like everyone's already had a kid, but that shouldn't discourage you from having a kid. Or like, you know, people have eaten quinoa before, therefore I will not eat quinoa. Or other people drink coffee, therefore I won't drink coffee. Like, it's this kind of strange individualism differentiation thing we get from pretty superficial things, in my opinion. You know, can you imagine a kid who's like, you know, all these other kids have used crayons before, therefore I won't draw with a crayon. I think it's quite silly. So yeah, just shoot cliche photos, shoot the same thing over and over again. And this is the thing, even if you literally shoot the same scene over and over single again, physically speaking, right, the atoms of the scene will always be different. Your atoms in your body are different. The atoms of your subject is different. The atoms or the photon stream of the light's always different. So even if you really, really try to photograph the same photo, picture perfect at the same time, it'll always be a little bit different, right? And, you know, even with writing or blogging or vlogging thoughts and stuff, right? You can have the same thought over and over again, right? But every time you express it, it'll always be a little bit different, right? Because there's this strange tendency. It's like repetition is bad. But I think it's good, because when you repeat something, it either means that the degree of truthfulness or the truthiness of something is deeper, or you've discovered a slightly different way to think about it, right? Like even our best friend Jesus, right? The edicts and the things he preached were essentially more or less the same thing. You know, think about Stoicism, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius. The same thing they say is kind of the same thing rehashed in different ways. And that's okay. So it's okay to repeat yourself. And I think the best thought about photography is your present photography self and your past photography self is actually inferior to your potential future photography self.